I'd like to now bring up our fifth speaker of this session. This is Raj Gopalakrishna. Raj is a co-founder and CTO of Acalvio Technologies. Acalvio is Raj's third startup. His fourth startup is the farm on which he lives, where he grows his own food and is inspired by deception in nature. Those of you who were part of our M3TID training yesterday and have looked at M3TID on your own saw that deception operations are a component of threat-informed defense. Raj will tell us about deception-based active cyber defense as a part of a threat-informed defense strategy.
Thank you, Sunil. So good afternoon, everyone. So I know I'm between you and lunch. I'll try to keep it interesting. And before you get angry and hangry with me. so yes, I do live on a farm, and it's almost a primary job because my wife also works. So I spend a lot of time in the farm with my workers. So it's fun. I have a lot of animals, 100+ animals with me. So I get a lot of inspiration just watching them. All right. So first of all, I'd like to thank the MITRE team for giving me an opportunity to talk to you, and for Citibank for hosting us. Thank you for that. And the great work MITRE is doing with attack framework that all of us can take advantage of that. So a round of applause for them, please, for all the MITRE gang. Thank you for that. So I wouldn't spend much time on my background because you can find this in my LinkedIn, but most important, just say I've been doing this for more than 30 years. So of course, I would love to retire, but the bad guys are going to not let me retire. So I'll continue for some more time. And I come from a largely R&D background, so I'm not a sales guy or marketing guy. So I'm an R&D guy. And the LinkedIn is at the bottom. I go by the name Raj Gopalakrishna, though the session said Rajendra, which is my full name. It's a little hard to pronounce when I lived in California. They used to call me Rajendra. So because the H and J was getting confusing for them. So I just shortened it to Raj and said, Raj, everybody in India, the many Rajas in India, I'm one of them. So these days I live in Bangalore. Okay. And so today I'm going to do 3 different things because I know there are terminologies issued here. So I'll a little bit set the stage. Then I'll talk about what we're doing with MITRE ATT&CK and how are we leveraging that. Okay. And thirdly, I'll give 3 examples and to make sure the concept is understood what we are doing. That's the idea behind this. So before I get to that, I have a question for you. When you heard the word deception, what came to mind first? How many of you thought about honeypots? Right? Majority, I'm presuming. Many of you are thinking of honeypots, right? If not, honey nets, right? If not, you're thinking about adversary engagement, right? Probably those are the 3. I'm not going to talk any of those 3. So I'm going to talk something different, okay? So bear with me a little bit. Some of you might have thought about politicians, right? When you talk about deception. So anyway, leave that for a moment. So deception is actually the most proven security concept in nature. Why do I say that? Because there is always a predator and a victim in the natural world that's been going for 100 million years plus. There's a moth, for example, has been its planet for more than 100 million years, but it's still around, right? How come? Right? It doesn't have any poison, no teeth, no claws, nothing. It's still around, right? And it's an epic battle with the bats. Bats would love to hit the moths. They're still surviving. Both are surviving, right? Same thing you see with the squids and the whales. The epic battle going on for lots of years. Plants, for example, a passion fruit tree, right? If there are butterflies who are considered as an attacker as far as the plant is concerned. So a plant responds with about 6 types of deception just to keep itself alive, right? I can speak for hours on plants, trees, zoos, etc. I'm not going to do that. Just enough to say it's a concept that has been there for a long time in the cyber, before it came to cyber. We are just thinking about now, okay? So it's the most proven security concept in my mind, okay? So before we get to defining the other words, active defense, active cyber defense, etc., I want to talk about a little bit of the lay of the land, okay? So traditional security has always been focused on what the attacker did, okay? TTP is example, right? So primarily it's based on observation and telemetry. It could be logs, it could be in watching some network traffic, it could be something on the endpoint, it could be whatever you're watching, okay? And all the log analytics, anomaly detection, behavior analytics are all based on the principle that you can observe. If you cannot observe, a lot of this cannot work. So the blind spots, something that's done in the client side, various places you cannot see inside the application, for example, inside the browser, you cannot see from the endpoint. So a lot of such problems in the real world. So visibility is a critical requirement. Attackers are further becoming very stealthy these days, as the techniques will indicate. For example, many of them use valid accounts, right? They don't have to break in, just come with the normal one. Come through the main door, right? Because the moment you come through the main door, the same credential used by a good guy versus a bad guy, the difference is just the usage and fundamentally the intent. System has a tough time discerning good from bad. So far with me? Okay. And so I have a different principle on which we built this company. Okay. Instead of worrying about what the attacker did, let's focus on what the attacker can do. Okay. And once we can understand what the attacker can do in a given environment, on a given asset, or a given part of the network, can we change reality or perception? Right? Today, everything attacker sees inside is absolutely real. Like in this room, all the humans are real, right? All the chairs are real, right? Same thing happens in the environment of from the customer or organization point of view. So he has no problem in navigating this. Once he's done one recon, he's got all the information. The amount of change is very little. And for him, there's no cost for trying. He keeps trying till he succeeds. Even if you catch him and throw him, block him, whatever you do, they come back again. The same thing happens in the physical world. If you talk about the border between Canada between Mexico and US, there are people running across the border every day, right? What happens in what the border patrol can do is some small percentage of them can be caught. Maybe 5%, maybe 10%, pick a number. And then what they can do is after some time, they will deport them back to the country they came from, whichever country it could be in South America, or even probably from Punjab these days, right? And so what the guy comes back, next week he comes back again. We cannot win a war like this, just catching and throwing them. The next time he knows where he got caught, next time your job is to find where he is now. Not easy, right? You turn the tables, in my opinion, right? And for example, that comes down to the question comes down, deception is a double-edged sword, like a gun. You can use for good, you can use for bad. All right, same, just the gun. The difference is intent. So if somebody can buy a gun, it could be intending to kill somebody, or can be used to defend, right? How do you find intent? Observation is too late in the cycle to catch something. That means already the act has happened. You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to detect the intent of the malicious actor, then you need to worry about the intent. Intent cannot be found by just observing. Maybe only if you catch red-handed. For example, if I suspect my maid is a thief, right? So the question is, how do I know she is a thief? I have a suspicion. So I can wait to catch her red-handed, but maybe I'll never catch her because she's smart. She knows when I'm at home, who's at home. She knows where the cameras are. Probably small chance I'll catch her red-handed. So how do I catch her? Give her an opportunity. Okay? Give her the opportunity and see how they behave. Maybe repeatedly, till you know. For example, I can leave money in my shirt pocket and leave it in the laundry basket, knowing the maid will put it in the laundry machine. Okay? And then what does she do when she finds the money? She's going to come back and give it to me. Or she's saying, finders keepers. All right? I never found it. I don't know which case. So that tells you a lot of the intent behind. So the theory is completely different from what we traditionally do. So here it's about giving an opportunity to what the attacker seeks. That's the key principle underneath what I'm saying. I just give an analogy, but fundamentally the same idea behind that. Then only need to observe activity against the deception artifacts. So you don't need to observe everything. You don't have to boil the ocean. The different philosophy, okay? And what comes out of that is high fidelity detections which is very critical to do automation. We have all probabilities. Some of the previous speakers spoke about, false positives or predictive nature of AI, et cetera, et cetera. You can't do any automation if you're not sure, because the medicine may be worse than the disease, right? So only way to get is being very sure is to do something like this. Is one of the techniques. I'm not saying this is the only technique, but this is one of the techniques. So Gardner calls this a new category called preemptive cybersecurity. I use the word active cyber defense, whichever word you like. I know those words are sometimes have many meanings and interpretations. So what are the design principles and we will use? And so the three different principles, I put them in three buckets. Why will the attacker go after your deceptions, right? So how do you design for that? The most important property, I think, is not putting randomly deceptions. If I want to catch a rat in this room, there's probably no rat here, then nothing will happen also, right? So how do you make it attractive? Make the artifacts, deception artifacts, attractive. And so the attacker comes after the deceptive artifacts as opposed to real assets. Very fundamental concept, okay? Make sure it's visible to attacker tools like Bloodhound. It's also important the attacker doesn't evade your defenses. A lot of our problems, if you look at MITRE's count of all the techniques and sub-techniques, all falls in defense evasion. Large numbers under defense evasion. The attacker's goal is to evade defenses, rightfully, right? So what we have to do is personalize the deceptions per asset automatically, okay? So that every endpoint gets different set of deceptions, every domain, every OU, everything gets different. So attacker, even if he controls more than one machine, he cannot compare and find out what's the deception artifacts, besides blending in and lived in. And also we have to worry always about containment. If you're going to work with attackers, you have to be careful. And so design it for continuous observation and thing. So with that, I'll give you four more slides, and the most important by giving all the concepts, because they're getting into, we're talking about the use case, okay? So what can we do with this detection? What type of things can we detect with deception tech? We can detect at a threat level. For example, ransomware, identity. I'll give you some example, double click and tell you that. We can also work at a tactic level. Sometimes you want to find a particular tactic. Like I mentioned, defense evasion is number one amongst all the tactics that attackers are adding a large number of sub-techniques and techniques, right? And very hard for existing techniques to detect because they're evading them. So how will you detect that, right? But we can do that. Actually, we can detect defense evasion, okay? With the same principle, given opportunity, you will do it, okay? We can also go down one more level deeper and set traps for specific techniques that you're interested in, okay? So we can work at different granularities that you want. So what I'm going to give three examples, and then I'll illustrate the point what I'm talking about. The first one is identity solution. So in identity space, this is the current typical identity ecosystem. So you can have many things in that. Active Directory is an example of an identity store. There are users and service accounts sitting in something like an identity store. There are things cached on the endpoint. The attacker can steal from there. He can go after the humans. He can go after the password managers. He can go after steal credentials off the network. This is an example. He can steal off session tokens from the browser. He can attack the underlying host that's running the Active Directory. He can go after application credentials. He's got so much attack surface, he'll find a way. Not a problem, right? And many things are not even visible. No ADR knows what's happening in the browser. You talk to a SaaS application and log into Office 365, the session token is not visible. Attacker just steals it, trivially, right? So what can you do? So I can't walk you through all of them, there's no time. So I'm going to just take a couple of examples to illustrate that. For example, you can add attractive honey accounts of all types into AD, personalized for every environment, for every domain, every OU. We can add honey tokens onto endpoint. There are about 40 locations that I know of on the given Windows endpoint where you can find credentials of all types, 40, not one. Most of them are not visible to any EDR, okay? So, but we can put deceptions into those areas, so give the opportunity attackers looking for the tools like seatbelt, all these things will find it. We'll catch them using it. So you know the machine is compromised, okay? So similarly, where you know that somebody could be running a tool like Responder or Inway on the network looking for LMNR poisoning or MDNS poisoning, right? We can actually generate fake traffic and make them respond and catch them. So waiting for them to be observed. So the same lines we can do ransomware. And for example, we can take some of the key steps, lay traps for each of the steps and catch them. And this could be a technique. We can also go down to the my last slide, which is very specific to a technique. This is some latest 2025 report from Piker Security on the top 10 MITRE that they observed in 2024. Suppose you are interested in looking for a particular top few and set traps for them, we can set them with deception. Idea is the same. Give them opportunity, catch them using it, and make them attractive so they come after you. With that, I will stop and take some questions. This is how you can find me.